Hello and welcome to 60 Seconds with Sergio. I am your host, Sergio Cabanas, attorney at law here in Florida. Thank you for joining me today. Today's question is, Sergio, my spouse has been making unreasonable demands and basically preventing us from being able to settle our divorce or family law case. What can I do about that? Well, I understand your frustration, but let's be a little more specific about your question. Is your spouse being unreasonable on just one or a few issues in a case? Or is your spouse being unreasonable with regard to settling the entire case? First, let's consider that situation where your spouse is being unreasonable on just one or a few issues. You should decide whether the few points of disagreement are important to you. If they are not important to you, but they're important to your spouse, I would suggest that you not concede this issue right away. Instead, concede it in an exchange for something that is important to you. For example, let's assume you're dealing with a divorce case and your spouse is insisting on obtaining an entire asset, like a valuable coin collection. Under Florida law, technically, both parties are entitled to one half of this coin collection. But your spouse is demanding to keep the entire collection and you really don't have any interest in having any part of the collection. You can both agree to allow your spouse the entire collection, but it should be in exchange for something that you consider to be important. After all, that's what negotiations are all about. If the point of disagreement is important to the both of you, then examine and seek out important information about that issue. This is where I would suggest you consult with an experienced attorney who is knowledgeable about the laws that are applicable to the issue that's in contention. That issue could fall in one of two categories. There are legal issues where the law is absolutely clear. That is, you can pretty much anticipate with reasonable certainty how a judge would rule on that issue. But then we also have this other bucket or category of issues that are not so clear. So if your issue falls into that category where you can predict with reasonable certainty how a judge would rule at trial, look at who has the winning argument and negotiate accordingly. If the odds are greatly in your favor, then stand your ground. Consider being less flexible in your negotiations. Of course, if you're dealing with a situation where a judge would likely rule against you, you should consider being more flexible in your negotiations. On the other hand, if you're dealing with an issue where the law is not so clear, then you should consider the probabilities. That's where lawyers say, hey, that's my best day in court, or no, that's my worst day in court. We say that when we consider the probabilities of success. So if you have a high probability of success, there's still a value on the chance of you losing on the issue, and you should negotiate based on that value. Now let's take a situation where your spouse is being completely unreasonable about the entire case and refuses to settle on any issue. Well, I would suggest you look at the obstacle. The problem could be you and or your spouse are not yet knowledgeable about the particular issues of your case. Or the problem could be that the parties are being irrational or emotionally overwhelmed. Also, there could be a problem where one or both of the attorneys involved in the case are interfering with the parties' ability to settle. In those situations, I would recommend that the parties consider a mediation. A mediation is basically a conference where both parties in a legal dispute and their attorneys, if there are any, would meet with an independent, impartial person known as a mediator. The mediator will discuss the ways in which the case can be settled out of court without any further litigation. It is possible for you or your attorney, if you have one, to file a motion with the court requesting a mediation, and the judge would likely approve it. If a settlement is still not possible, then you can make an intelligent, strategic decision on going to trial and knowing the issues and the likelihood of success. I hope this short video can give you some general ideas and suggestions on what you can do if you find yourself in a situation where your spouse is being unreasonable. Thank you again for joining me today, and as always, stay informed so you can stay strong.